Welcome to the first episode of Bathrobe Philosophy. You may be wondering, why is it called Bathrobe Philosophy? See, I don't know. I thought I'd be wearing a bathrobe, but then I did tell you that the name will be subject to change. So the point is, this is going to be a series on philosophy. The name will probably change. And the reason why I'm doing this is philosophy is a huge part of my life. So I'd just like to share that with you and to see what you think about certain concepts that I battle with every single day. So the topic of the first video of Bathrobe Philosophy, or this philosophy series, will be the tongue has power of life and death. And this comes from the And this comes from the Bible, specifically Proverbs 18 verse 21. And the full verse is, the tongue has power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. So I just want you to think about that. What do you think the tongue has power of life and death means? Before you continue watching this video, I want you to pause right now, think about it for like a minute, and write in the comment what you believe that saying means. So hopefully you've commented what you think the tongue has power of life or death means. So now I'm just going to tell you what I believe and what I think it may mean. So this is an objective truth. Our tongue, more so our words, have an immense power in our life, an immense power on the outcomes that we have in life. I believe that after our mind, our tongue is the most powerful thing we have. Have you noticed that what you say is what you will eventually believe, as long as you say it enough times? There's that saying where they're like, if you tell yourself a lie enough times, you're going to believe it and you're going to think it's true. And that is totally true. We all have certain identities, we all have certain beliefs that we don't truly believe. But it's like, they were told to us so many times that we believe them to be true. We may see ourselves as like, we can't achieve anything. But that's because in our childhood, we had someone telling us that, you know what, you're not good enough to do that. We had peers telling you, you can't do that. And that was a lie. And at first, when people tell us those things, we don't believe them. But if they're told to us enough times, it just embeds in our subconscious and we can't help but believe them. So when I think about the statement, the tongue is power of life and death, I simply think that the tongue has power to make or break your life. Like whatever you say, whatever you use your tongue for will directly impact your life. So I think the common example of this that everyone has felt is that if you say that you're tired, you're instantly going to feel tired. You'll probably start yawning like 2 minutes later because you're saying that you're tired. So now your mind believes you're tired. And what we all know is that the mind controls the body. So because you tell yourself that you're tired, you will eventually feel tired. And then being tired will be your truth. However, on the flip side, if you tell yourself that you're feeling strong and energized, you will feel exactly that, strong and energized. See, this isn't important, but it's going to help hammer my point. So I go to the gym with two other friends. Their names are Tanaka and Tine. And we have a similar split, but then I do legs on Saturday, they do back and biceps on Saturday. And the reason being is because when we go on Saturday, it's normally late morning, early afternoon, so it's like boiling hot. And they will be like, I can't do legs on Saturday because it's too hot. It's too hot to do legs. It will be too hard. Well, they don't say it will be too hard. But it's like they're already convincing themselves, they're already telling themselves that if I do legs on this day, it will be harder. Fair enough, it probably is harder. Like when I do the exercises, I feel the heat. I feel that, you know what, this is hot. I'm going to have to exert a lot of pressure. I don't know if they'll comment, but you could ask them, like, does Takura ever say that, it's too hot, whatever. You'll find that most times, and I can tell you because I'm the person in question, most times, I'll never acknowledge that it's hot. I acknowledge that it's hot after the session, after I've done what I'm supposed to do. But during the session, I always tell myself that I'm feeling strong, that I'm feeling energized, that the weather's perfect. And because I tell myself that, my body reacts as if the weather is perfect, reacts as if I have to have the most strength possible. Because if the weather is perfect, then it's like you're giving yourself no excuse to be weak. And because I tell myself that I'm feeling strong and energized, my body reacts in a strong and energized manner. And I don't just do this on Saturday, I do this every single time I work out. I'll only say that I'm tired after I've worked out, and it's like, fair enough, I can say that I'm tired now because it serves my purpose of now going to sleep after that workout. So what I'm trying to get at with all that I've said is that you need to watch what you say. And more than watching what you say, you need to study your speech. You need to study the words that constantly come out of your mouth. The things that are like reactive, like someone says something and you just say it reactively, you don't even think about it. Those are the things that you need to study. It's not the things that you consciously say that you decide, I need to say this, that you need to study. It's the things that you don't think about. The statements that you always repeat to yourself. Statements like, I'm tired, I lack discipline, I'm broke. Those are the statements that you need to study. You need to ask yourself, why do I say those things? Why do I constantly reinforce something that isn't true. Me saying that it isn't true isn't the best way to describe it. I think a better way to describe it would be, why are you trying to reinforce things that don't have to be true? Things that you could change if you really wanted to change them. Because let's look at the example of being broke. You may be broke right now. It may be the truth. And if you're broke, you probably want to be earning more money. You probably want to have more money in your bank account. So the easiest and best way to do that, obviously, is to do the work, but to assume the identity of someone who has what you're looking for. So every time you repeat statements like, I'm broke, I need money, or whatever, you're reinforcing the identity that you are broke. And as we know, the tongue is power of life and death. The tongue has power to control your life. So if you're constantly telling yourself that I'm broke, if you're constantly telling yourself that I'm poor, you reinforce that identity. And your identity controls how you act. It controls how you act 95% of the time. The other 5% is when you consciously decide that, you know what, I'm going to do this. So these people who are constantly saying I'm broke, I'm poor, when they do eventually make the effort to now increase their wealth, they will be going against the identity. And one thing you should know is that you can never win when you're going against your identity. You always have to change your identity to match that which you're chasing after. So if you want to be, let's say, like even in the gym, if you want to be a fit person, when you are skinny, when you are unfit, you have to have the identity of someone that's fit, someone that goes to the gym. So you have to tell yourself, yeah, I go to the gym every day. Yeah, I eat healthy. Physically, you look fat. But then in the end, you're going to look like a fit person because you would have assumed the identity of a fit person. This is another philosophy rant, like in one. So anyways, back to the topic of this video. So more so, when we say that the tongue has power of life and death, it's also that the words that we say filter into our beliefs and our identity. So now, we have this philosophy that the tongue is power of life and death. So what do we do with it? With all philosophy, it shouldn't just be read. It shouldn't just be admired from like, this is a nice philosophy that I'm reading. It should be applied to your life. So how can you apply the saying that the tongue is power of life and death to your life? I think the best way to do it would be to acknowledge that your tongue has immense power. What you say, what you think, but more important, the point of this video is what you say has an immense power in your life. You may not believe that it has an immense power, but just act like you believe it. So if you want a positive life, resolve to only speak positively. Even in negative situations, resolve to always find the positive of the situation, to always find the bright side. And you know, one of my friends who is extremely good at looking for the bright side, his name is Carl. So another one of my friends named Rebo, he sent this screenshot to the group. And in that screenshot was talking about how a father, I don't know what the father did, but I think he impregnated like some random woman. And then he decided that he wasn't going to give child support or something like that. But then he also decided that he was going to see the child every week. And then everyone else was like, that's bad, this father's bad. Then Carl was like, at least he sees the child. And it just showed that he was looking for the bright side in a seemingly negative situation. Well, yeah, probably very negative. So if you want a life of abundance, you have to speak in terms of abundance. So do not say statements like, I'm scared to do this, I'm scared to lose this, because that indicates that you have a scarcity mindset. It reinforces that identity that things are scarce. So you will not create that abundance through those words. And now, going on to my favorite point. Do not complain about anything. The reason being is because when you complain, complaining always has to be a negative emotion. You can't complain positively. You can't be like, why is this happening? Like, you can't. It always has to be negative. There's always something wrong. There's always something that's bothering you. So that negative emotion that comes attached to the complaint will make your life worse. The tongue is power of life and death. So when you choose to complain, when you complain about things that you can control, things that you can't control, you're choosing death. You're using your tongue for death. And I have a story on this. A few months ago, I was going through a breakup, and it's challenging emotionally. And I used to say this saying, I'm yiding. I'm yiding is slang for I'm dying. So essentially what I meant is like, I'm struggling, I'm dying emotionally. And then after a few weeks of saying this, I sat down and I journaled, and I was like, what does this statement mean? And I acknowledge the fact that the tongue has power of life and death. So even though when I say that I'm dying, I don't mean it literally, I mean it metaphorically. Those words, they have power of life and death. So I resolved that I would never say that I'm yiding in terms of like the emotional sense, like I'm yiding. And as soon as I resolved to do that, things became easy. I don't know if it was just time doing its own thing, but everything became easier. My emotions weren't as intense as they were before. Simply because I wasn't speaking into my life that, I'm dying emotionally. See, I would tell my friends, and I would tell myself that I'm not dying, I'm just struggling emotionally. I'm in pain. I didn't exaggerate a situation that didn't need to be exaggerated. So now, to cap off this video, do not say anything that does not serve you. So if you're trying to go into direction A, do not say something that insinuates that you want to go direction B, because your tongue is power of life and death. Your tongue has the power to shape your life. I want you to think about all the greats, all the people who have achieved great things. You've probably watched a few interviews by them. Let's say like Michael Jordan, you have your Elon Musks, I don't know, like a Henry Ford interview from like 1940, like all these people. I want you to examine the way they speak. I feel like all successful people know that the tongue is power of life and death. So if you examine their interviews, if you examine their books, they will acknowledge that there were times of uncertainty, but if you look closely, there were never times where they would say something that didn't serve them. There were never times where, let's say they were trying to be wealthy, then they were like, I'm broke. These people all acknowledge that the tongue is power of life and death. And you should too, because your tongue is power of life and death for you. So examine your tongue. Stop saying things that don't serve you. If it doesn't serve you to be tired, don't say that I'm tired. If you're going into the gym, don't even think about the phrase I'm tired, because that phrase doesn't serve you. Don't say I'm tired, I'm broke, or other negative things. They may be true, but saying them in that manner will never help you. But yeah, that's it for the first episode on this philosophy series. It will be named Bathrobe Philosophy of the first episode. It probably will change. But yeah, drop a comment about what you think about the video as a whole. Drop a comment as to what you want me to talk about next. Any type of philosophy, I don't mind. I hope you enjoy that one. Cheers, gents.